Hey everyone, happy Monday. So this week we are starting Module 6. So you should have gotten a packet in the mail. If you haven't gotten the packet yet for Module 6, don't worry, just follow along. We're going to start with some word problems, and then we're going to move into some bigger numbers. So hopefully we can use our schema of what we know about smaller numbers and go ahead and work up to some of those hundreds and tens and ones and just work with bigger numbers to compare. So what I want to do is go ahead and get started with sharing my screen and our PowerPoint for today. So when we're going through this today, I want us to be focusing on our objective, and our objective is that, all right, pretty simple today. I can solve comparison word problems. So the biggest thing I need us to focus on today is using our cube strategy to really understand the story that's being told in the word problem so that we can paint a picture in our brain, draw a picture, and show our work using tape diagrams today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up our first word problem that we're going to work through together. So our first word problem today, all right, so I'm going to read it. The first time I read it, you're going to listen. So Rose wrote 8 letters to her friend. Her goal is to write 12 letters. How many more letters does she need to write to meet her goal? So you can see there's a picture here already for us. So this model I made of the story using Lincoln cubes. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram to match this. But first I want to go ahead and break it down so I understand what's happening. And I'm going to use my cube strategy. So I know I need to circle. The first letter is C. Circle my numbers. So one of my first important numbers that I have here, I know the first one, 8. Rose wrote, oopsies, let's go back. There we go. So let me make sure I have my pen ready to draw. Rose wrote 8 letters. Let me undo that because it's 8 letters, okay? So she wrote the letters to her friend. Her goal is to write 12 letters, okay? So I know she has 8. Her goal is to write 12. Underline my question. How many more letters does she need to write to meet her goal? Okay, so I'm trying to answer how many more she needs. So my box my action word. I want to know how many more she needs. So what is how many more? If I want to know how many more, I need to know how many she needs to add to it, or what's the difference between where she's at and her goal. So I'm going to be subtracting. Okay, so I'm going to put the subtraction sign right there. I hope you can see it okay. Easy evaluate. So I'm going to evaluate what I know. All right, so I know she has 8, and that's what this blue shows me. So I'm going to go ahead and start my tape diagram right here to show here is 8. So I'm going to put the number here for 8, and these are her, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. I put 8 in the box, and this is how many she has written. So I'll put an H right here. Now I know she wants to get to, what's her goal? 12. So I can go like this, and I know her goal is for 12 letters. I'll put the L right there. So I need to know how I'm going to get. Her goal is 12. She's at 8 right now. I can write a number sentence if I want to. I could say, no, she has 8. I need to know how many more she's going to add to get to 12, right? Well, I drew this picture up here, and I have these 8, and I can count 1, 2, 3, 4 more. Oh, and then she was at 12. So 4 is how many more she needs to write. So I know 8 plus 4 is going to get me to 12. Okay, so I think this is right. The way I set up here, there's how many more I meant subtraction. So I know if she wants to get to 12, if I subtract how many she has, that would be 8. I need to know what's 12 minus 8. I have 12 here. If I cross off these 8, I'm left with 4, right? So I could say she needs to write 4 more letters. So I want you to keep this in your brain as we continue working so that you guys can know how to break down a word problem, to draw a picture and use a tape diagram. Remember this picture right here with the bars in the arms over top. They get the hole, our part hole. It's kind of like a number bond, right? So that's our tape diagram right there. I remember to box my missing mystery number because my answer is 4 more letters. All right, I'm going to clear this. And then we're going to go ahead and we are going to try another one. So Rose wrote 8 letters. Nikil wrote 12 letters. How many more letters did Nikil write than Rose? So what I would have you guys do in the classroom is that partner A, using one color, would make a stick to show how many letters Rose wrote. And partner B, using a different color, make a stick to show the number of letters that Nikil wrote. So what I want you guys to do is draw me a picture. Draw me a picture of the 8 letters. My screen keeps jumping ahead on me. So the 8 letters right here for Rose, draw that. And then the 12 letters for Nikil. Go ahead and draw that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and put on my picture. So if you notice, I started mine using kind of like the measuring rules. I started both of mine at the same exact starting point right here, because now I can see, I want to know how many more letters Nikil wrote than Rose. So if I go ahead and I have them at the same starting point, this one up here was Rose because she had 8 and Nikil had 12. I can go ahead and say, okay, no, they're starting at the same point. I can go ahead and match up where the ends are, right? So I match up where the ends are. All I have to do is count on to see how many more Nikil wrote. So I could say 1, 2, 3, and 4. Huh. So it looks like Nikil wrote 4 more letters than Rose. So what I really did here is I took the 12 that Nikil wrote, and then I was like, okay, I know that if I subtract 8, they kind of equal each other out in these 2 rows that we have, and what I'm left with are these 4, right? So Nikil wrote 4 more letters than Rose, okay? So I'm going to use these cubes now to help me draw a tape diagram. Watch. So it's a Monday, sorry guys. My computer is going a little crazy on me. So if I use these cubes to help me, I could say, here are my 8. Here are my 4. And all there are 12. One part is the 8. And the other part is the 4. Because yes, Rose and Nikil each have a number of letters, but the whole in this case is the 12 because we don't ever get more than 12 letters. So we're comparing the 2 letters that Nikil wrote and Rose wrote, okay? So I'm going to clear this and we're going to look at another one. All right, so this one says, Tamra collected 9 seashells on a beach. Julio collected 11 seashells. And how many more seashells did Julio collect and how many fewer seashells did Tamra collect? All right, so I know. What I want us to do first is go ahead and draw how many Tamra has and how many Julio has. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna circle my numbers that I know with the name, okay? So I have 9 seashells right here. Sorry, my drawing tools, being a little silly today. Nine seashells and 11 seashells, and this one's for Julio over here, and this one's for Tamra. So go ahead and draw those because we know who they belong to. And then what I need us to do is start thinking about underlining the question. What am I trying to figure out? There's 2 question marks here, so I know there's 2 questions we have to answer. It's a 2-part question, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and break it down one step at a time, okay? So my first question that I underlined is how many more seashells did Julio collect? And then how many fewer seashells did Tamra collect? So I know I'm comparing the 2 numbers that each person has. So once I draw that picture or I have those cubes, I know it's going to help me. So let me go ahead and pull them up. All right. So I see I have Tamra and I have Julio. All right. So this picture right here is going to help me so much because I know that Julio has his 9 and Tamra has her 9 and Julio has her 11, okay? And I know that they're starting at the same point, and then I can match up the endpoints and say, oh, well, since all of these ones cancel each other out, I can just compare the ends. And I can say, well, I know Julio has 2 more sticking off the end when I line them up with the same units. So Julio has 2 more seashells than Tamra. At the same time, how many fewer seashells does Tamra have, or does she collect? Well, Tamra has 1, 2 less. So this picture right here is doing all the work for us. So make sure that when we line up our pictures, that we start from the same endpoint so that we can compare where they line up so that we can count on how many more are. So we're going to be doing comparison problems, all right? So we're going to go ahead and move forward. So what I can do is I can draw this tape diagram again, and I can say, all right, I'm going to take the biggest piece right here, right? The biggest part is this 12, right? And then I'm going to say, all right, I know that, I'm sorry, this is 11. Michelle's brain is a little silly on a Monday today. So I have 11 seashells is the biggest amount, or the largest amount that someone has. And then I know when I draw my line like this, I have 9 seashells here, and I have 2 seashells here. So I know that this was Tamra and this was Julio. So that was a really easy way to use those Unifix cubes, or the cubes, to help me draw my tape diagram. I just found the biggest part, or the biggest number of seashells, and then I lined up the endpoints where they both, where the first one ends, and then I was like, okay, I know that's how many more I counted on right over here, and I was able to just draw my tape diagram. So what I'm going to do, how many seashells did Tamra and Julio collect? All right, so let me just go ahead. I want to know how many they collected, so I need to find how many in all. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, well, I know 1, 2, I'm just going to double check, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I made sure I checked my work and I have the right number on each person's. Tamra, Julio. So I can say 9 plus 11 equals, well, I should probably count on for my highest number. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 seashells in all. So that would be the sentence you could say. They collected 20 seashells in all. So I hope you're recognizing how really important it is to draw a picture and use a strategy in order to help with your tape diagrams, using counting on, being able to just understand the word problem by breaking it down and then picking a strategy and using it every single time. So the last one I want you guys to look at says that Willie saw 13 leaping lizards at a park. Fran saw 8 leaping lizards. How many more lizards did Willie see? How many fewer lizards did Fran see? Go ahead and you can draw it out with me. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my picture right here. I know that this was Willie, and then this is Fran, right? Willie had a total of 13. And then Fran had a total of 8. They're lined up at the same spot. I'm going to figure out where they ended. So my question is, how many more lizards did Willie see and how many fewer lizards did Fran see? So I'm going to go ahead and count on from where they match up, because these ones in here, I'm going to cross them off because they cancel each other out. So I want to know how many more, how many fewer. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, right here, this is 5 more. So how many more lizards did Willie see? Well, Willie saw 5 more lizards. How many fewer lizards did Fran see? Well, same thing. Fran saw 5 fewer. So this picture is really going to help me, because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, all right, I know that this is how big my largest number of lizards was. I know that if I draw my line down, this is where they match up. On this part, there were 5 lizards that they saw, and because that was the difference. And then this was 8 lizards. Okay, so I can say the total number in lizards is 13, and I can answer my questions very easily because this 5 is my missing part. 13 minus 8 equals 5. Or if you know your related facts or your fact family, you could use any other ones, like 8 plus blank equals 5, or sorry, equals 13. Okay, so you can use all of your related facts to help you. Alrighty. So what I would like for you to do is go ahead. I'm going to flash through these, so if you don't have them, you can freeze the screen and I'll read them once and you can answer the questions. But if you need any feedback or any help with any of them, feel free to reach out to your teachers to work on tape diagrams, because that is what our focus is to use a tape diagram to compare. So make sure you're using that strategy to line them up, use your labels, and write a number sentence to match, okay? So read, draw, write. Read it, draw your picture with your labels, and then write a number sentence and a statement so you can match the story and answer it. First one, Peter has 3 goats living in his farm. Julio has 9 goats living in his farm. How many more goats does Julio have than Peter? Pause it so you can work on it if you don't have your packet. Here, I'm going to read the next one. Willie picked 16 apples in the orchard. Emmy picked 10 apples in the orchard. How many more apples did Willie pick than Emmy? Pause it here if you need to work still. 3, Lee collected 13 eggs from the hens in the barn. Ben collected 18 eggs from the hens in the barn. How many fewer eggs did Lee collect than Ben? Pause it here. All right. Shanika did 14 cartwheels during recess. Kim did 20 cartwheels. How many more cartwheels did Kim do than Shanika? Pause it here if you want to work on this one. And that is all of the problems that we have for you today. So go ahead, complete your work. And if you have any questions on any of the strategies we went back to today, I know we've been working on clocks and shapes. So this is a big refresher of your brain today of what we worked on before. So I want you to make sure you take your time, show your work. Remember, read, draw,